Hello, everyone. I wanted to share a story I wish I did not have to tell. The night before my 30th birthday, I woke up at 2 a.m. with my heart pounding. I was alone in my studio apartment, while 400 miles away, my mother was dying. She was 53 years old. The doctors had told me she probably wouldn't make it through the night. I tried to breathe, and I couldn't, and my panic went on for hours. Finally, around 5 in the morning, I got in my car and drove myself to the emergency room at Stanford Hospital. The doctor listened to my chest, looked at me kindly, and gave me the only prescription that could have helped. He said, "Find someone to talk to." I didn't understand it then, but that sentence would shape the rest of my life. Because I thought I was having a medical emergency. What I was really having was a preview of a question that would take me decades to answer. What do we actually inherit from the people we love? And what happens when no one prepares us to receive it? My mother had been my best friend. When she died, I didn't just lose a parent. I lost the one reliable, safe connection I had in the world. And then the estate process began. My mother had an estate plan, a good one, thoughtful, carefully drafted, and well-intended. But the documents could not do what the family had never learned how to do. My brother and I ended up in court fighting against each other. There were accusations, public lies, painful things said that more than 40 years later I can still hear. That courtroom was the last time I ever saw him. A few years later, my grandmother died. She had a significant estate, tens of millions of dollars. She left every penny to charity. Her stated reason was that she didn't like the way the family members were turning out. Now, I want to be clear. This is not a story about being deprived of money. This is a story about what happens when a family has assets, documents, intentions, but not enough trust, not enough communication, not enough connection to hold it together. The lawyers had done their jobs. The documents were fine. What was missing was human. Years later, I was working in financial planning and investments, helping families with portfolios, retirement, and estates. And I came across a sentence that stopped me cold. No estate plan, no matter how well drafted, can survive unprepared heirs. Suddenly, my own family made sense. The problem was not only what had been written down. The problem was what had never been spoken. We'd never sat together and talked about what money was for. We'd never talked about what mattered most. We'd never built the muscles of trust, repair, listening, or shared purpose. And here's the wake-up call I want to offer. Your family will not only inherit your money, they will inherit your silence or your clarity. They will inherit your avoidance or your courage. They will inherit your unresolved conflicts, your unspoken hopes, your family stories, your values, your fears, your generosity, your unfinished business. That is the inheritance that no one plans for. And it's the one thing that determines whether the rest of the plan can actually work. We often talk about wealth as if it's something you can put in a vault. But wealth is not just a number. Wealth is a web. It includes financial capital, sure, but it also includes human capital, intellectual capital, social capital, and spiritual capital. The health, wisdom, relationships, meaning, and sense of belonging that allow a family to flourish. When the connecting threads break, the whole web is at risk. And that's why this work matters. The work we do in family mediation is not about forcing families into uncomfortable conversations for the sake of it. It's about creating enough safety, structure, and skill that families can finally say the things that matter before a crisis, before the will is read, before assumptions harden into resentments. Sometimes that means repair. Sometimes it means mediation. Sometimes it means preparing heirs. Sometimes it simply means helping a family begin with one honest conversation around a kitchen table. But the goal is the same, to help families move from silence to understanding, from fear to trust, from transaction to relationship. Because the conversation is not separate from the plan. The conversation is the preparation. So as we begin today, I invite you to listen with one question in mind. What is the conversation my family is not having yet? Not because anyone has failed, not because it's too late, but because every family has a next conversation, one that can create more clarity, more connection, and more peace for the people they love. I learned the hard way that inheritance we rarely plan for is the one that matters most. It is each other. Let's plan for that one first.